Hi, it's viewers of Equinoxe Television, 6 p.m. by 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the news. We begin right away with our major stories. Gross financial scandal in the construction of the Olimbe Sports Complex. In a recent correspondence from the Ministry of Sports to the Prime Minister's office, after over 100 or 250 billion francs CFA has been spent, it was revealed that 50 billion francs CFA is still needed for the completion of the construction of the Olimbe Sports Complex. The Olimbe Sports Complex, which was to host the 2019 AFCON competition, which was to be hosted by Cameroon, is still not finished. And also in this newscast, we take you to Valley Besenge here in Douala, where several persons are said to have been rendered homeless after their houses were demolished today. Stay with us for details and more. Welcome back, viewers. To begin this edition of the news with this element, not far away from us at Valley Besenge here in Douala, several persons have been rendered homeless after their houses were demolished. The demolition exercise began this morning in the presence of some administrative officials, and our staff lady, Lucy Liengu Esia, witnessed the demolition exercise early today. She now tells us how it happened in this report.
Cooking in an open air, this woman says she has nowhere to go with her kids. This is the case of several families in the Besenge neighborhood, Douala 1 subdivision, who have had their houses destroyed in a demolition exercise launched by the Douala City Council. According to the victims, they have been living on the site for more than 42 years.
We came
here in 1982. Despite the swampy nature of the area, we decided to construct our houses here. We had to put in lots of money, especially when building the foundation. We know the government is aiming for emergence come 2035, but then we should be compensated. The senior divisional officer had promised that we will be compensated, but to my greatest surprise, nothing has been given to us. They are demolishing houses that are not even close to the road.
Et là où nous sommes présentement, là, nous on n'a pas de problème de ce côté. Voilà là où le tuyau de Pablam passe.
We had two apartments here, one for my parents and the other for my siblings and I. With the situation now, everyone is looking for where to stay.
Having had their houses all destroyed, the victims decry the fact that they have not been indemnified. The demolition exercise, supervised by the first assistant senior divisional officer of Wuri, Guy Emmanuel Chamga, started in the early hours with a bulldozer bringing down houses. The authorities say the destruction is for the construction of pipelines.
Nous agissons dans le cadre de la libération de l'emprise du drain.
We plan constructing pipelines and drainage systems on the site. That is the reason why we had to demolish the houses. This pipeline will enable us to supply gas and petrol to the entire country. Before carrying out the demolition exercise, we had already held several meetings with the population and traditional rulers.
En présence des chefs traditionnels et des chefs de famille.
The victims say they only hope that the government allocates them a place to settle.
And now over to one of our major lead stories. There has been a gross financial scandal concerning the construction of the Olympic Sports Complex in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and a recent correspondence from McGill through the Ministry of Sports to the Prime Minister's office. It was revealed that about 50 billion francs CFA is still needed for the completion of that project. We all know the Olembe Stadium was supposed to host the 2019 AFCON competition in Cameroon. It is still not yet complete. And our reporter Manji Kangebe tells us that most Cameroonians think those involved in that scandal should all resign.
The most spectacular financial scandal recorded by Cameroon in the past 10 years is now public news. God, what crime did we commit to merit this? A question posed by Honorable Cabral Libi on his official Facebook page. Touched by the latest scandal involving his country, the MP, Honorable Cabral Libi, takes to his Facebook page to address the issue.
Quand j'avais dit que ce sont les Camerounais qui ont placé les pots de...
When I told you that it was Cameroonians who placed the pangolin skin at the Olympic Stadium, when I said those treating with McGill were owed about 12 billion francs CFA, Razel was owed about 13 billion francs CFA, and they decided to drag McGill to court. The poor Cameroonians who worked day and night have not benefited anything, and they say it's public funds that will see them through. When I told you this project will move up to 300 billion francs CFA, the amount we just voted as running budget for the country, that is how they have added up every price in the country. Fiscal stamp is now 1,500 francs. They are looking for that sum to settle these Olympic problems.
300 milliards qu'ils se gobergent là à Olympique.
Benjamin Zebazi, on his part, has qualified this act by saying this Olympic gate is a crime against Cameroon. For him, no Cameroonian, whether a supporter of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Party or not, will waste time to read the long letter sent to the PM's office by the Minister of Sports and Physical Education without reacting the same way he is doing. The management of the country is criminal, while some in their post accuse the government of aiding in the stealing of these billions of francs CFA, which is about making the country to lose money that could have been used to develop the agri sector in the country. And another Facebook user says, is Olympic cost? According to Cabral Libi, the Minister of Sports and Physical Education and his team, who won't be forced out of their positions, should kindly resign. He should stop writing to the PM, because when he was covering these people, he didn't write to the PM. He should instead write to the task force. These people should be removed from our way, and since President Biya knows well how to recycle these criminals, very soon they will be appointed as ambassadors. This is pure mockery and provocation if they are still left in the same positions.
Parce que c'est de la moquerie, de la pure jactance et de la provocation que de les maintenir.
According to Cabral Libi, the Olympic Stadium was the money factory for many government officials. Cabral Libi is now hoping that, just like the head of state mentioned in his end-of-year message to the nation, those who steal money from the state should be punished.
And now we will be talking more about the Olympic Sports Complex financial scandal in the second part of the news. And as Cameroonians complain about the embezzlement of public funds, the local population in Cameroon is also complaining that they are suffering because of high cost of living, and they want the minimum wage in Cameroon to move from 32 or 36,000 francs to 100,000 francs like it obtains in other African countries. And economists or economic analysts in Cameroon say 36 or 32,000 francs as a minimum wage in Cameroon is very much insufficient for the local Cameroonian. Let's now have more with a staffman for me, Armstrong Sander.
The Ivory Coast, Gabon, Senegal and other countries on the same economic perception index with Cameroon have had their minimum wage rate raised at a time when the world is battling with a general increase in the prices of goods and services. Among the most recent is Ivory Coast, whose minimum wage rate has been raised to 75,000 francs CFA.
You realize and you bear with me that despite the fact that prices are increasing, and you and I know that these prices will increase and will never reduce, if you want to have a single room, which is not a model one in a city like Douala, it will not be less than 20,000. Your feeding per day, if you take just 500 francs per day, it will be 15,000. Your light bills, water bill will stand at maybe 5,000. Your health, transport, if you spend just 500 per day, it's 15,000. What will you say?
The economist Song Derrick further says Cameroon's current minimum wage rate is largely insufficient.
A citizen, what can someone do with 36,270 francs, given that the prices of basic commodities are increasing every day? We have seen the rise in the price of granite oil from 900, 1,000 to 1,600 francs. We've seen the increase in the price of, and we are seeing even the increase in fiscal stamp from 1,000, it left 50 francs to 300 to 500, 1,000, and we are getting at 1,500 francs. The question is, how will the local person cope? And let me even shock you that when we are talking about this minimum wage rate at 36,270 francs, there are people, especially private individuals, that are paying people as low as 25,000 francs. They don't even respect, because there are no mechanisms, there are no follow-ups that are put in place to make sure that the minimum wage rate is even respected. And to me, the minimum wage rate of 36,270 is a way of punishing people. It's a way of saying that, okay, if your employer is paying you 37,000 francs, the employer is doing you a favor.
Considering the current realities, he says every Cameroonian needs at least 100,000 francs CFA to live a decent life.
There's a possibility we can have our minimum wage rate at 75,000, at 80,000, why not 100,000 francs? It's possible. It can be done if the leadership is willing.
To the economists, Cameroon has got enormous natural resources which must be accompanied by good leadership and a positive political will to offer a jealous living standard for Cameroonians.
And the price of fiscal stamps has increased, leading to an increase also in the cost of windscreen licenses. Cameroonians seeing this increase in prices is going a long way at impoverishing the masses the more. Let's now have more with Immaculate Fogwe.
1,000 francs to 1,500 francs. This is a new cost of a fiscal stamp in Cameroon. The modification is contained in Article 547 of the 2023 Finance Law that went into effect on January 1st, 2023. Civil Cameroonians are outraged over the 50% increase of the fiscal stamps commonly used for the authentication of official documents.
Oui, le prix est cher. Le timbre d'abord 1,000 francs. On dit 1,000 francs, c'est beaucoup.
50% is too much. They didn't even consider average Cameroonians who live from hand to mouth. That's really bad. How are they expecting us to cope?
Augmenter un peu. Peut-être 10%, 20%, ça va.
C'est une décision.
They took the decision without even thinking of how it will impact the population negatively. We have no choice than to pay. Another major modification on the 2023 Finance Law is the increase in the cost of windscreen license. Private car owners have already noticed a 100% increase. Windscreen license, which used to cost 25,000 francs, will now move to 50,000 francs, while those who used to purchase it for 50,000 francs will now have to pay 100,000 francs. Cameroonians denounce the new measures taken by the government as a means of increasing tax revenue collection. This increase comes at a time when the minimum wage rate of Cameroonians still stands at 36,000 francs, with the prices of basic commodities skyrocketing on a daily basis. Cameroonians are wondering how they will be able to cope with the increase in the prices of these items.
And now, President Paul's assessment of the security situation in Cameroon during his end of year's address to the nation has led to different views among political leaders. Some disagree with the head of state, while others think he made the right decision on the situation in the northwest and the southwest regions. Let's now have more with Babila Jonathan.
Is the security situation of Cameroon, notably the crisis-hit northwest, southwest and far north regions, under control, as announced by President Paul Biya?
Nous avons encore, n'est-ce pas, en notre sein, sur notre territoire, la guerre qui sévit au Nosso.
With regards to what he qualifies as war, killing elements of the national armed forces and civilians in the northwest and southwest regions, and insecurity in other parts of the country, Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM lawyer Fabien Kenye contradicts the head of state.
Donc il ne saurait dire que la sécurité de quelque point que ce soit est maîtrisée au sein de la société camerounaise.
Sur le terrain, il y a une neutralisation notamment de la crise au niveau des foyers de tension, mais aussi sur le plan diplomatique.
André Lutemeka of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, says the Anglophone crisis has been neutralized both at home and abroad through the killing of lead separatist fighters by the army and the arrest and prosecution of alleged masterminders of the conflict in the United States of America.
Le chef de l'État a nettement raison de dire que la situation est sous contrôle.
In this perspective, he says the head of state is right to say that the situation is under control.
Il peut y avoir la sinistrose, la peur des populations.
He, however, highlights possible fears and uncertainty that could overwhelm the population due to cessationist activities.
Le président de la République a fait une certaine peinture qui cadre avec la réalité sur le terrain.
Political analyst Aristide Mono says, yes, the head of state painted a security situation that meets the reality on the ground.
La situation dans le Nozo est un peu plus complexe et va au-delà de la simple question de la maîtrise.
But he underlines the fact that the Anglophone crisis is much more than military control.
Il faut résoudre naturellement.
The Anglophone problem should be resolved before any praise singing on the management of the situation in the northwest and southwest regions.
Sur la gestion globale de la situation dans le Nozo.
According to Aristide Mono, the way forward is the effective quest for long-term solutions to the decades-old problem at the center of the outburst of anger and frustration late 2016.
And now Cameroon has joined other countries the world over to observe the World Braille Day. Braille, we know, is the major means of communication for the blind and the visually impaired. They are complaining that the Braille paper is expensive, thus hindering the teaching of blind and visually impaired children in the society. Let's now have more about the difficulties they encounter with a staffman, Innocent Aze.
Persons with visual impairments are less likely to access education, healthcare, employment, and to participate in the community. They are more likely to live in poverty, experience higher rates of violence, abuse, and neglect. They are among the most marginalized in crisis situations. While commemorating the 5th edition of World Braille Day under the theme Working Together to Ensure Inclusive Societies for Persons with Visual Impairment, this group of persons with disabilities in Douala highlighted navigating around places, arranging clothes, getting devices to become independent, finding reading materials, and others to be challenges they face on a daily basis. The major issue is to find good reading materials in accessible formats. It was also an occasion for these visually impaired persons to plead for help, notably the provision of braille materials so that they will be able to teach the young blind children. Braille which is a tactile representation of alphabetic and numerical symbols, using 6 doors to represent each letter and number, and even musical, mathematical, and scientific symbols is used by the blind and partially sighted people to read the same books and periodicals as those printed in a visual font. It is essential in the context of education, freedom of expression and opinion, as well as social cohesion.
And now in health, every 2 minutes, 1 woman dies of cervical cancer across the world. And in our context, in Cameroon, 5 out of every 8 women die of cervical cancer. And just to mention that cervical cancer, however, is preventable and treatable, as Immaculate Fogwe tells us in this write-up.
Cervical cancer is the 4th most common cancer amongst women and the 4th type of cancer causing death globally. In Cameroon, cervical cancer is the 2nd most common cancer after breast cancer. Statistics reveal that at least 8 women are diagnosed with cervical cancer in a day, and 5 out of the 8 die of the disease.
Cervical cancer simply is the growth of abnormal cells, like I said, that start on the cervix, and it has the tendency to grow and go to other parts of the other organs, neighboring organs, that has the tendency to spread. So that's when we call cancer.
Early stage cervical cancer generally produces no signs and symptoms. Some of the signs and symptoms of more advanced cervical cancer include vaginal bleeding after intercourse, watery bloody vaginal discharge with foul odor. Doctors blame the increase in cases on late diagnosis.
With cancer of the cervix, it takes a very long time. It takes about 10 to 20 years before you can present with cancer. When you are infected with the human papilloma virus, you have no sign, you have no symptoms. So nothing shows on you that there is a problem. But there is the abnormal growth of cells that is then multiplying at the level of your cervix. So by the time that many people are coming at the hospital, they come when it is too late.
Aware of how deadly the disease is, a vaccination campaign has been launched, and it targets children within the age range of 9 to 14 years old.
We want to prevent these young boys and girls from contacting the human papilloma virus. That is the main goal. And when you look at these boys and girls at the age of 9, between 9 and 14, many of them are not sexually active. And one thing with the human papilloma virus is that it is sexually transmitted.
The sensitization campaign, organized by health experts in the city of Douala, is meant to create awareness on the disease.
And so that was it for the first part of the news. Thank you, viewers, for always being there. But don't go away. Talking Points is coming up next. We will be coming back to the gross financial scandal concerning the construction of the Olympic Sports Complex. Stay with us.
The mass service organized at the St. Peter's Paul Cathedral in Douala this Thursday, 5th January, was in honor of former Pope Benedict XVI, who died on December 31st, 2022 at 95. The mass was celebrated by Archbishop Samuel Cléder. During the homily, he said,
Pour nous qui croyons, il est de notre devoir de confier, n'est-ce pas, à personne.
As Christians, it is a right for them to entrust to God their loved ones when they die, so that God can welcome them with a merciful heart and to recognize his good deeds on earth. And Cameroonians should keep a good memory of him, as he once visited Cameroon and attended Mass in Yaoundé.
Il a célébré, n'est-ce pas, la messe à Yaoundé.
Christians of St. Peter's Cathedral in the city of Douala pray for Pope Benedict to intercede for them. Beside the prayers, Christians say what they have are good memories of him.
Le fait qu'il s'est sacrifié pour le service de Dieu.
According to this Christian, he sacrificed for the work of the Almighty, especially at the moment when he resigned after he realized he couldn't continue with the task ahead. He reserved his dignity by resigning. That is what she keeps of him. Meantime, Pope Francis paid tribute to his predecessor, former Pope Benedict XVI, in the funeral ceremony at St. Peter's Square in Vatican.
We couldn't bypass that. That was the homage which is being paid by Catholic Christians across the world to Pope Benedict XVI, who died some days ago. His Grace Samuel Cleda also paid homage to him during a pontifical mass he did today at the St. Peter and Paul's Cathedral. Pope Benedict XVI is being laid to rest today at the St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican. Now it's time for Talking Point. Like I announced a while ago, we are coming back to the gross financial scandal concerning the construction of the Olembe Sports Complex. My guest tonight is Mr. Ndiwu Mimawa. He is of the civil society. Mr. Ndiwu Mimawa, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We are talking about the financial scandal in Cameroon. It is shocking because the money used or disbursed to construct that stadium is the money of taxpayers, and now in a missive or a correspondence from McGill through the Ministry of Sports to the Prime Minister's office, we learned that the works there is still not complete and needs about 50 billion francs CFA to be completed. Meanwhile, about 250 billion francs had already been disbursed for the construction of the Olembe Stadium, which was to host the 2019 AFCON competition in Cameroon before that competition was postponed. As a civil society actor, what do you make of this scandal?
Thank you very much for renewing the confidence in me, and I'm glad to be on your platform once more. I will start by telling you that before we talk about the hosting of the AFCON 2019, that Olembe Stadium was one of the leading stadia that was supposed to host this biggest event. We should always recall that the right to host the Nations Cup was granted to Cameroon in 2014. It took up to 2019 with all the failures that accompanied this process. And it took only the head of state to come and reconfirm to Cameroonians in his famous word, glissement de canne. And since that time, Cameroonians have been asking these questions. Also on the field, understand the pain, the agony that Cameroonians have been going through. Because to have come out and just said it was a glissement de canne, that it was resent to another death, was not reason enough for somebody who calls himself a head of state to have advanced to the people. Because the money that was factored into the construction of this stadium is your money, is my money, is a taxpayer's money. So we need accountability. It was not money from A2D. It was not money from Yaoundé. And of course, to have just come out in a very subtle manner without any seriousness attached to it, telling us that it was glissement de canne, and it ended like that, of which Cameroonians know exactly what happened before Cameroon was unable to host the 2019 AFCON, because the money that was meant for the construction of the stadia, the roads, were idling in the pockets of some few individuals who, some of them, ended up even being promoted. And we even saw some of them who said, la canne sera là le jour dit. Until they got promotions to different directions, nothing was done. I think it once more confirmed that Cameroon is without leadership. We don't even know where we are going to. Because today, let me tell you, I am one of the person who never even saw the urgent need for an AFCON to be hosted in a country where corpses are littered everywhere. It was not urgent. I said it in 2018, 2019. I maintain it till date. AFCON was not a necessity for Cameroon. There were very important things that this money would have done for Cameroon. But since some particular people knew what they were going to get behind the AFCON, they insisted that the AFCON was to be hosted in Cameroon. And we all know. We know it started with a scandal of a bag of cement rising from 4,500 francs to 16,000 francs. The story went on and on. A trip of sand rose right up to 700,000 francs. Until then, no accountability, nobody has been behind the bars, and we are still wondering, Cameroonians are still surprised, since we are living in a country of surprises.
Well, we also remember that some time ago, some members of an opposition political party, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, were arrested and put in prison because they were asking, among other things, they were demanding, among other things, accountability, including accountability on the construction of the Olympic Sports Complex. Can we today say they were the ones on the right track?
Talk from a neutral perspective. You know, like I've always said, politics is yet to begin in Cameroon. And so those who are doing politics and doing it the wrong way, I don't want to associate myself with it. But if I were to talk from a neutral perspective, I am one of those people who went to different media houses calling for accountability. And if there are people who stood up one morning to say they needed accountability, I think it was their civic right. I don't see any reason why whosoever, for a reason related to the embezzled funds of the AFCON, should be behind the bars. I think that is a gross violation of human rights, of which everybody, be it a politician or from the civil society point of view, should condemn with the last energy. And what beats my imagination again is the fact that many Cameroonians do not know that at the point in which we are talking, Cameroon is silently going through a structural readjustment program. We are talking about funds here that are not Cameroonian funds that were granted to them by the World Bank and the IMF. I am afraid in such a situation, when funds are loaned for a project and many years down the line, the projects are not realized, the funds are idling in the pockets of some few individuals, we are getting towards doom. And mind you that in such a situation, I am afraid that Cameroonians should start knowing as from today that all of us very soon, if care is not taken, will be living as tenants in Cameroon, while the World Bank and the IMF will be living as the landlords. Because when you are a debtor to somebody, you are the property of that person. I quite remember a teacher once told us some years back, once you are a debtor, you are a prisoner. And when the authorities of Cameroon decide to imprison all of us, it is but normal that if care is not taken in the days ahead, all of us, you and I, the citizens, will become tenants, while the IMF and the World Bank will be our landlords.
And now that famous missive or correspondence which was sent from McGill to the Ministry of Sports to the Prime Minister's office indicates that the contractor, McGill, the head of that contracting firm, is in prison in Ukraine. And some public opinions in Cameroon think it is a way of distracting or even manipulating Cameroonians. Are you of that same opinion of you?
To set the record straight, let's ask the real questions. And this McGill company, if my memory is not failing me, we were told there's a Canadian company, right? I think I want to use this platform to tell this government that enough is enough. You cannot continue to play with the intelligence of Cameroonians for so long a time. Investigations should be opened with immediate effect to find out first if truly McGill is a Canadian company. That's the first investigation. If it is a Canadian company, how did they negotiate their way to win this contract? Who gave them this contract? What were the terms of the contract, and what was the limited time for this contract? That is the investigation that should be opened. If finally the contract was given to them, how was the payment phases arranged? How much was supposed to be given before, during, and upon completion of the construction? Because we are talking about payment of human resource here. We are talking about procurement of material, working material. Who was supposed to do what at what time? Now, according to the official statement that I read from the Minister of Sports and Physical Education, we are told, or we are made to understand that they only discovered that he went missing for 6 months. It means that they were not in accord with each other. I want to tell you that it is the most shocking scandal in recent time that Cameroon is starting 2022 with the most shocking scandal, because I refuse to even call it Olembe. I maintain that this stadium was baptized Paul Biya Stadium. Every scandal in this stadium should be called Paul Biya scandal, not Olembe scandal, because it was supposed to be Paul Biya scandal. And what makes it more shocking again, what adds weight to the shock that is already existing again, is the fact that we know of compatriots whom out of love went to watch football in this very stadium, and there is a scenario that happened there, and these souls died. It would have been in respect of the memory of these souls that died to hasten up everything, to cover up so that no scandal ever resurface in the name of Olembe. But I am sure that even these souls have been forgotten. Justice has not been done to their memory, because if there was justice to be done to their memory, I want to think that everything would have been done. No stone would have been left unturned to make sure that they prevent any possible source of a scandal. And I want to insist, I will insist, that we know those people who siphon these funds and they are moving. I will repeat, they have the watches, but God has the time. If the head of state does not come back to his words some days back, that everybody who have played, who has vandalized, he used the word played with public funds, I use the word vandalize the public state funds. If he does not come back, I have always been one of those people who thought that these people should not be put in prison. The funds should be collected and then they should be given alternative punishment. But I am saying it tonight here on this platform, all of them need to be arrested, not only arrested, brought to book, polished very well, and all the money recollected, because it is not only too much, it is above too much.
And now, Mr. Ndium, after all has been said, we are talking about 250 to 300 billion franc CFA, money which belongs to money contributed by taxpayers in Cameroon. And we are looking for a solution, because there is a problem. What should be a way forward? We are looking for what should be done to ensure that if the money has been siphoned, it should be recuperated, and the stadium should be complete. So what should be the way forward?
They say you cannot get a yolk without breaking the egg. If breaking the egg is the last option left on the table now, let that egg be broken. Because for so long a time, we have always pampered the causes of incidents in this country, and then we turn out to pretend to fight the consequences when it gets to a maximum point. We are already at a maximum point of disgrace in this country. Since we all know, and the world knows, that Cameroon's image has been disgraced enough, let the head of state take his responsibility by putting all these people behind bars. They know themselves, we know them. If the head of state refuses to act, it means he is showing the Cameroonians to use the wrong way to act, because actually, and it's a no, it's already here, and I don't think Cameroonians are ready to face 2023, because after everything, the taxpayers will pay it through their redundant taxes that are increasing every day. So when they steal, we pay for them. When we speak, they don't hear. No, it is time to act, and to act fast and broad. There is no need to be soft on this one.
thank you, Mr. Ntumi Wanwell, for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. And viewers, we thank you so much for being with us. The news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.